Welcome back, everyone. This is Frank Demore with the Last Chronicles of Planet Earth. And if you're in my YouTube channel, you know that today, January 13th of 2012, I just recorded a video that had to do about the dollar dying, the debt that the United States has incurred, and where it is leading to the Antichrist. Now, before I go in and finish some of the other information about the wars that will be coming, I wanted to add one more piece of information for you. And before I get to the report, what I'd like to do is go to my book. So in order to do that, let me click to this one area in my book. Now, in my book, this is where I show you the progression, how the world is leading to a cashless society, and how governments around the world, one by one, are going to a national ID system. And many of these nations, or just about all of them, are going to a biometric system. And these are the footsteps that are leading to a cashless society that the Antichrist will end up controlling, as we see from Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 through 17. Now, this is what I wrote in my book, and you'll see the dates right here about what was happening in India. Now, this is from 2009. It says, as of December 2008, this trend towards forcing worldwide national ID card continues, especially now when our planet is facing new terrorist attacks. On June 25th, 2009, the BBC ran a report they entitled "India to Launch ID Card Scheme." And according to the report, the Indian government has begun moves to provide a unique identification UID scheme or a number to its citizens. The central government has announced on July 15, 2009, the Times Online.cu.uk had a report that stated it is truly the biggest Big Brother project yet conceived. India is to issue each of its 1.2 billion citizens, millions of whom live in remote villages and possess no documentary proof of existence, with cyber-age biometric identity cards. India wasn't the only nation pushing forward with these national ID cards. And then I go in to talk to you about what's going to happen, or what is happening with Mexico. So I warned you a few years back, starting back, as you can see, back to 2008. But then what was happening in 2009, and now I want to bring you up to speed, because this is a massive project, one giant step for a global database that eventually will fall in the hands of the Antichrist. So let me go into the article that came out from Infowars.com, and he does have a lot of inside news, and this is all over. Everyone knows about it. Those that are watching this video who live in India know that what is produced at Infowars as far as the national ID, this biometric ID, it is truth. It is fact. Now let me get into a little bit about what he says here, and then I want to scroll down, and hopefully you'll understand a little bit how this is a massive undertaking, and how it is definitely one giant step towards the Antichrist system. Over the past few months, I have written several articles dealing with the coming cashless society. Now remember, in the Revelation, it said that the Antichrist is going to place a mark in the skin, in the right hand or in the forehead. And unless anybody if they don't take this mark, they're not going to be able to buy anything. They're not going to be able to sell anything. And so we know that a new system is coming. We know the steps that are coming, and this is from a cashless society. They'll actually, by the time the tribulation is in full bloom, this system will have already been set up, the cashless system, that you will be probably scanned at the hand or your forehead to be able to make purchases. Now let me continue. It says, and the developing technology control grid. I also have written about the surge of government attempts to gain access to and force the use of biometric data for the purposes of identification, tracking, tracing, and surveillance. Unfortunately, the reactions I have received from general public are almost always the same. While some recognize the danger, most simply deny the governments have the capability or even the desire to create a system in which the population is constantly monitored by virtue of their most private and even biological information. Others either grip the apathy or ignorance, cannot believe that the gadgets, even to them from the massive tech corporation, are designed for anything other than their entertainment and enjoyment. However, current events in India should serve not just as a warning, but also as a foreshadowing, and I totally agree with them, foreshadowing of the events to come in the Western world, specifically the United States. Recently, India has launched a nationwide program involving the allocation of a unique identification number, or the UID, to every single one of its 1.2 billion residents. Each of the members will be tied to a biometric data of the recipient using 3 different forms of information: fingerprints, iris scans, and pictures of the face. All 10 digits of the hand will be recorded and both eyes will be scanned. The project will be directed by the Unique Identification Authority of India under the premise of preventing identity theft and social welfare fraud. India has rather extensive social welfare and safety net programs, ranging from medical support and heating assistance to others aiming at helping the poor. Fraud is a rampant problem in India, especially in relation to these programs due to the preponderance of corrupt politicians and bureaucrats who often stuff welfare rolls with fake names and take the money for themselves. Yet, although the justification for a billion-person database is the increased ability to accurately disperse social welfare benefits, it would not be just that India's government's welfare system programs that have access to utilize the UIDAI. Indeed, even before the program has even been completed, major banks, state, local governments, and other institutions are planning to use the UIDAI for identification verification purposes and, of course, payment and accessibility. But let me scroll down here and get to one of the major points that I believe it's really important. Ultimately, I would be surprised if the UID, with its biometric data, could be used as a means of payment when linked to a bank account, right? Or as an access key to homes and cars. Purchase a meal with your fingerprint and unlock your door with the twinkle in your eye. Similar results could be expected in other nations that adapted the biometric identification systems. So we see that in this, and this is actually a good part that I want to read it as well. It says, yet the UID is going to be used for much more than social welfare programs. The UIDAI is in discussion with many institutions, banks, local, state governments, etc., to allow them to use the UID as a means of identification and verification. These institutions will pay the UIDAI some fee to cover costs and generate revenue. There seems to be little doubt that once it is established, the UID will become a preferred method, if not the preferred method of identification in India. and so forth. Then he goes down and he talks to you about the payment, how payments can be taken from this national ID, and if you don't have it, man, you're in big trouble. Now, indeed, government officials have already stated that the database will be used by intelligence agencies for the purpose of monitoring bank transactions, cell phone purchases, and movements of individuals and groups suspected in fomenting terrorism. This will be very easy to do, since the UID number will be entered anytime an individual accesses service from government departments, driver license offices, and hospitals, as well as insurance, telecom, and banking companies. Now you can keep going down and read about this UID. It's really important that you understand what's happening in India, because it is a major event that is going to take place in most of the world, and all of the world. Little by little, you'll see if you read my book, every one of the nations are going to systems similar to this. But in closing, let me read this. At first, the program is introduced as a way to speed up transactions, increase efficiency, and provide convenience. Soon, however, governments and businesses begin to transition out of the older methods of payment and identification and focus more on the new technology. Identification using the traditional methods remain as an option, but become viewed as cumbersome. Eventually, the alternative methods are phased out. Get that? Because that's exactly what will happen. Phased out completely, and mandates replace what was once a personal choice. As soon as Indian banks, businesses, and government social services offers and offices begin to require identification using the UID, the ability to remain off the system and lead what passes for a normal life will disappear. And you can believe what he is saying here, because essentially what he is showing you is essentially the same thing that Jesus talked about in the last days, when there is definitely coming a worldwide system by one man, the Antichrist, who will control everything that you're buying or selling. Now, if you'd like more information about the different methods and the different countries that are being affected by these national IDs, please go to my book. Download it today for free. You'll be able to read everything that's going on, and you'll be able to see not only what I've been quoting here and now giving an update to what's happened in India, because years have passed and now it's already established and they're well underway of marking, if you will, with identification, biometric identification to everybody in India. Now, if they can do it in India, where they have that many people, they could do it anywhere. And it is coming. If you think it isn't, then you don't believe what the Lord has said, and that would put you in grave danger. So I really pray that you would understand what the implications of articles like this, because the Antichrist is in the wings. And at the right time, when the economy falls, this man will come out, and this new system, this cashless society, will begin. It's not if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. And you can take to the bank the words of Jesus Christ in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 through 17, where he warned about this man who was going to mark everyone, and if you don't take the mark, you're not going to be able to eat or drink. And the only way that you can dodge that is by receiving the Lord Jesus Christ and becoming his child. And once you're sealed as your child of Christ, you don't have to worry about it, because the Lord is going to remove you from this wrath that will be poured out on unrighteous people, that will have to deal with IDs in the skin that will be used to take money out from this cashless society to be able to buy anything or to sell anything. And I pray that you would heed what the Holy Spirit is showing you today through His scriptures and this proof, because we are definitely getting a lot closer and the Lord can come back at any time. Thank you. Hello everyone, this is Frank DeMora, and this is January the 13th, 2012, and I'm going to again connect the dots between Bible prophecy and current events. And if this is the first time you found my YouTube channel, I would like to invite you to go to my website, where you'll be able to get there by going to BibleProphecyMan.com. And when you're there, you'll have the opportunity to scroll down and you'll be able to click this link and download the book for free. Now I'm going to get into some prophecies today that deal with Psalm 83 and also with Ezekiel 38. So that would be Psalm 83 and the exact opposite, Ezekiel 38. It's kind of interesting that the numbers are flipped and they're both wars, and they're both wars fighting against Israel, and both wars are won by Israel. And so this war, the Psalm 83 war, will be the first war that will be fought. And again, if you're brand new to prophecy, for those who know prophecy, please bear with me so that I can explain very briefly what's going to happen in the near future, as we see what the Lord tells us. So Psalm 83 tells us that there's an attack coming against Israel. All of these nations will be involved in it. They're going down to Israel to try to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. And you could read Psalm 83, or you can Google Frank DeMora, Psalm 83, and see all the different articles that came up about it. Now, that again, this would be the first war that will take place, and this is going to happen when Israel is still calling for peace and safety. But this war, we know from Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39, they're completely different people, nations, that come down against Israel, as we see in this area here, in this Psalm 83. Again, these are the bordering nations around Israel, and these are not the bordering nations. These are nations who are being led by, you can see the invasion will be led by Russia into Israel. At least they're going to make an attempt to Israel. The scriptures say that they'll be destroyed in the mountains even before they make it to Israel. But as you see here, here's a whole list. You'll find this in my book of exactly what nations are going to join forces with Russia to attack. Now, for the purpose of the news that are coming out today, and for the previous, the last couple of months and even 2 years, Iran has been in the news almost every single day in accordance with Israel. They've been jockeying back and forth, threats being made about war. And all of these events, there's no doubt to anyone who knows prophecy knows that these events are leading to not only the Ezekiel chapter 38 war, of which Iran will be coming in this direction to Israel, along with Russia, who will be coming from the northern quarters. You see Gog and Magog there. This is an old map, and this is how it's read actually in the Old Testament, Magog. And then obviously the nations here, as I said before, will be attacking before or during the time that there's calling for peace and safety, and the time that they still have walls separating the Palestinians from Israel. And now this war will take place when there is no walls, bars, or gates to block people, and Israel actually think that they're living in a time of peace when this Russian invasion comes down. So now, if you're new and you scroll down, when you go over to my website from this YouTube channel, I'm going to have each one of the posts or the reports that I'm talking about today. There will be a link there. You can click the link when you get over to my site. I'll have the links there for you. And then you could read the entire article for yourself, each one of these articles. And then if you're new, you'll be able to go down and check out some of the things that are happening with the Last Chronicles ministry and where you can get some other information. But right now I'm going to start off with America and how the decline of America will give heed to the rise of the Antichrist, or at least it's going to help give rise to the Antichrist, because when the American dollar dies, then there's going to be a major catastrophe around the world, economic chaos that will be a domino effect. And we believe that this might be a twofold deal where the European Union and the United States might crash around the same time, causing worldwide panic and worldwide chaos that will cause for a new man, a new economic system to be born, and we know then that would be the case for the Antichrist to rise. So what I want to do is take some of these articles first to get through them. I'm going to take the first one here. Let me go right to it, where it says, as you can see here, the article says Obama on pace to borrow $6.2 trillion in one term, more than all presidents from Washington through Clinton combined. Now, this CNSnews.com report said President Barack Obama has been increasing the national debt during his presidency by an average of $4.24 billion per day. That's a huge, huge debt that this man who told us he was going to give us change is laying on Americans. It says, putting them on a pace to increase the national debt by $6.2 trillion, unheard of, by the end of his term in January 20th, 2013, according to the debt figures published by the U.S. Treasury. As you can see here, it says that $6.2 trillion is more debt than was accumulated by all U.S. presidents from George Washington through Bill Clinton combined. Now, as you can see, there's more to this article, but I have the link there. You can click the link and you can be able to read the rest of this information. But here's the bottom line. What President Barack Hussein Obama is doing, he's crushing. If you can picture a person with, say, 500 pounds of weight on a barbell, and he has two people on each end of the barbell helping him hold the weight up, right? Now, we're at a point where we see that the person who's holding the barbell, his knees are shaking. And once both of those people who are helping this man hold up this weight, in this case it would be debt weight from the United States as we borrow more money, once both of those supporters are gone and they release, this man is going to collapse, or if you will, the dollar will collapse, because there's going to be a point in a time where the United States will not be able to pay off their debt and America will come crashing down, and that metal bar will just crush this person who's trying to hold it up by himself and knows that he can't do it. It's only a matter of time. So the change that Barack Obama told us that we were going to get, he's making good on his promise. Now, here's the bad part about it. The change is not good. You cannot keep borrowing money, can't keep printing money, and think that you're going to improve the economy. All you're going to do is crush it. And I believe with all my heart that this man was placed in office to actually help bring down the American economy. And we know from the Old Testament that God sent in ruthless kings when Israel did not follow God. And then once Israel began to follow God again and do what God wanted it from them, love them and just, live under the law at that time, then God sent a righteous king. And nothing has changed. The United States is moving away from Jesus Christ. They're taking, for example, they're taking our society and they're throwing it to the dogs. They are allowing things to take place in this country that oppose the Word of God, and if it continues on, and one of the examples that I'm talking about, Barack Obama is working with the rest of the nations to try to divide Israel, and this is one of the things that I've talked about quite a bit, that it's caused the United States to fall under a curse that we see in the book of Genesis. And you can Google Frank DeMora, the curse, the book of Genesis, and you'll see all the articles and pointing to the scriptures that show that when you come against Israel, then bad things not only happen to the person who comes against Israel, but also the nation. And so this is one of the reasons why I believe the United States is about to hit the bricks under the crushing force of this huge debt that there's no way the United States is ever going to be able to pay. So we know when this happens, as I said before, the Lord told us that there was going to be a brand new system. And this system, what was it going to be? Well, Revelation chapter 13. The Lord showed us that when the Antichrist comes, nobody's going to be able to buy or sell anything unless they had the mark of this leader who is the Antichrist. And that mark will be placed in your right hand or your forehead. And so in order for that to ever happen, there has to be, I believe, a major event that will crush the world economy to force a new economy. And this man right here, I believe, is one of the main people who will help crush the economy and help lift the podium for the Antichrist to rise. All right, so let's move on now into the use of force tops agenda on Iran. Now, in the beginning of this video, I showed you that there was going to be two wars, and I believe that the news that we're seeing now are events that are leading up to the war with Iran. And I mean war between Israel and the Iranian state. But let's look at this. This is how close is the West of getting an all-out conflict with Iran. As 2012 gets underway, the question is right at the top of the international security agenda. Hardly a day goes by without some striking news from the region, be it Iran's decision to enrich uranium at a new underground site, or the unexplained killing of another Iranian nuclear scientist, or Iran's threat to close the Strait of Hormuz. All of these things I've been pointing out in the past weeks to you, showing you that there's war coming. It is hard to think of any moment since 2002, the year that Iran's nuclear program was first uncovered, when the situation has seemed so hot. That said, the alarm can be overdone. Given the sheer number of military exercises being conducted by Iran, Israel, and the U.S. in the next few weeks, there is an outside chance that a conflict could accidentally erupt because of some misunderstanding in the Gulf. Otherwise, the big moments of the decision in the long-running saga are still at least a year away. There is one factor which explains why the situation around Iran has suddenly become inflamed: the decision by the U.S. and the European Union to impose sanctions that banned oil imports from Iran. Until now, sanctions have mainly been targeted at entities related to Iran's nuclear program, the very thing the West is trying to halt. But the move to cut off Iran's oil export is already seriously hitting the country's beleaguered economy. It is also prompting Iran's threats over the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's main oil trade arteries. Many in the West still doubt whether Iran's threat is to close the strait is serious, but closing it Iran would be blocking its own oil exports. It would also likely be defeated by U.S. naval and air power any conflict. Besides, the EU, like the U.S., will next week be careful to phase in the sanctions. This will defer the pain inflicted Iran for up to 6 or more months. But even if an immediate military conflict in the Strait is averted, there still leaves a wider question. How much longer can Israel and the U.S. wait before they bomb the nuclear sites? And this has been one of the major points of interest that I've been pointing out, because specifically because the president or the prime minister of Israel has said many, many times that they will not allow the Iranian people, Ahmadinejad, to get a bomb to be used against the Israeli forces. Now, the person who wrote this article says that, there's no way that there's going to be an attack within the next year. And, that may be or may not be the case, whether this attack comes in 2012 or 2013. Now, what I'm about to tell you is I believe that there's definitely going to be war. We know that because we've seen this war. We know where this war is going to be. And, all you have to do is just take a look at this right here, the Psalm 83. We know that the war is going to happen. But in order for the Iranian war against Israel that will come with Gog and Magog, or Russia, that is the second war that will take place. So we know that this war has to take place first, the Psalm 83 war. So, looking at this, I would say that there is the very good possibility that there will be some kind of conflict in the Middle East, but that conflict will not cause the Ezekiel war, of which Iran has a part in, that goes after Israel. I don't believe that that's going to happen until after the Psalm 83 war. So in the meantime, what are we going to be watching? Well, we're going to be watching more threats. There's going to be more time that will pass, and I believe that Israel may try to bomb the Iranian nuclear weapons facilities. We know that there's been something going on where Iranian nuclear scientists have been assassinated. I can't tell you for sure who's doing it, but we know that the Mossad, Israel's, compared to the United States, the Secret Service, they're fantastically prepared, and they know how to take people out that are a threat to their nation. So in the meantime, we know we can expect more news like this, more threats between Iran and Israel and the United States. And of course, this would go hand in hand with Matthew 24, where the Lord told us in 24:7 that there would be wars and rumors of war. So let me stop, because I'm going to be running out of time here. I'm going to stop right there for a second and ask you to come back, and I'm going to be doing some of the other, finishing off with the last two reports that I have for today and tying the knots in between what the Lord said and what is actually happening today. Thanks.